Peace and blessings, family. Thank you so much for being here. It is your boy Zamboni. I am an herbalist and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. Thank you, as always, for being here. Thank you for sending me a tip via Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. Thank you for checking out the Patreon. Thank you for going on Spotify or Pandora or Tidal or whatever you like and listening to Can't Help Myself. That shit helps me a lot. Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about the astrology this week. This week, it is all about Cancer and Capricorn. Currently, we have the sun in Cancer. Happy birthday to all my Cancer people. Hey, I see you. I see you. I didn't say that a couple of weeks ago, but I should have. Happy birthday to Cancer. As we see the sun moving through Cancer, not only is the sun there, but Mercury is there as well. And actually this week, we're gonna see the sun and Mercury conjoining. So whenever we have Mercury and the sun together, or any planet with the sun really, then this is called Cazimi. It's the planet in the heart of the sun. So whenever we see a Mercury Cazimi, we're gonna see some kind of special message coming through, especially a message with Mercury. And so I've been talking for a little while about Mercury and Cancer as being deeply feeling, as being mute and therefore unable to appropriately or prosaically or intelligibly express a particular idea in the way that Mercury likes to. Instead, in Cancer, in a water sign, it's going to be more feelings focused. It's going to be more metaphorical. We're going to get into things like song and image and stuff like this, things that generate feelings and emotions, but that are maybe a little more difficult to articulate, right? So, so whenever we see a special message coming in for a Mercury Cazimi, then it's less likely to be a situation where it's like, I have the microphone and I can say the thing now. More likely, it's going to be something, some kind of image shows up and it generates a strong kind of understanding or a sense of gnosis. And this idea of like being able to feel and understand a thing that may not be immediately articulable. So this is particularly interesting this week. That happens actually toward the end of the week, and it's kind of like building up throughout the week. But this happens at the same time that we have the full moon in Capricorn. So full moon in Capricorn this week is, it is a big deal. It is a real big deal, and it's going to set up some of the things that we're going to see happening toward, you know, like if we get our big picture glasses on, then we're not looking just at this week. We're not just looking at Cancer season. We can take a look at the rest of 2022. We can take a look at the rest of this whole historical arc, which is long, and there's a lot to play out yet. But so what we see here with this moon in Capricorn is that it's super interesting that, so a full moon is always going to feel like a culmination of some sort. It's going to be like it's the peak of the cycle, right? It's the peak of the lunar cycle. It's when the moon is the brightest, and it's when the moon is the most reflective, right? So it's a good time to reflect on whatever that moon is about. Now, this moon is in Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. Turns out that every planet in the sky is ruled by by Saturn. Now, this is super, like, and it doesn't immediately look like that, right? You can be like, nah, Neptune's in Pisces. Well, all right, cool. Neptune is in Pisces, ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is in Aries, ruled by Mars. Mars is in Taurus, ruled by Venus. Venus is in Gemini, ruled by Mercury. Mercury is in Cancer, ruled by the moon. The moon is in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. So everything ultimately comes back to Saturn in this one, right? And so, and indeed, what we have been seeing since 2018, so 2018, Saturn moves into Capricorn. Saturn moves into domicile for the first time in 27 years, right? So we start seeing real strong Saturn stuff going on here. Let us recall that Saturn is associated with management, right? So Saturn is not necessarily associated with the king, not necessarily associated with the owner of the estate, but rather the management of the estate, right? So we're looking at the sort of manager class. We're looking at, sometimes it's called the fulfillment layer, this kind of thing, right? This sector has been super strong. We've seen a lot of regulations come into play throughout this time, a lot of really strong power dynamics toward the end of a stronger power structure, especially since Saturn then moved from Capricorn into Aquarius in 2020. Then this is so much more just Saturn stuff, where like Saturn is still in domicile in Aquarius, and so this is real strong Saturn. Now, it's important for us to remember that we've got Saturn in domicile until March of 2023, right? So this is about 9 more months, or maybe 8 at this point. And then after that, we don't have Saturn in domicile anymore. Then we've got Saturn in Pisces. Then after that, we've got Saturn in Aries. And both of those are going to feature Saturn conjunct Neptune as well. So because we are seeing that Saturn is super strong right now, but maybe waning in influence in coming years, this is going to be an important thing for us to think with, right? As far as we're thinking with management and structures and our relationship to power. And indeed, relationship to power is a real big deal for us to think with under this moon. Moon in Capricorn, full moon in Capricorn is going to be conjunct Pluto as well. Whenever we talk about Pluto, we can always talk about the underworld dynamics. We can talk about the dead. We can talk about, things that are ugly and gross. Also, Pluto is almost always related to a power dynamic in some kind of way. Power is a real major deal in how we operate in the world, and Pluto, and we tend to not necessarily recognize it and not necessarily recognize all of the machinations of power, all of the ways that it works, right? And so this full moon gives us a strong opportunity to brightly reflect on our relationship to power and authority, most especially as it relates to management and the ordination of affairs. Now, when you say it in this way and you talk about the fulfillment layer or managers or whatever, then it's easy to be like, boo, like we don't like bosses and whatever, right? But it's also important to remember that each of us is also Saturn. Right? Maybe you are somebody's parent and you got to tell them no sometimes, and you have to manage their schedule or something like this. Maybe you are a manager in your workplace and you have a team of people that you need to, that you're trying to get a project done or something like this. This is something that happens all the time. Maybe you're an elder of some sort. Your Saturn is associated with old folks. And so maybe you are someone to whom younger folks will look to for guidance, or younger folks might be like, yo, fuck this. And there might be beef here, right? And this is in fact one of the things that we're going to see happening as we move forward. Once we start to get the new moon in Leo, and then there's going to be a full moon in Aquarius after that, then we're going to start to see the sort of younger upstarts represented by the sun starting to beef and oppose that Saturn influence, right? And so right now, Saturn is in a really strong position to order the environment and to make the rules. However, as we are already past the peak of Saturn stuff, right? The peak Saturn really happened around the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, followed by the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. So we're looking at 2020 as being peak Saturn time. And from there, we're going to start to be on the other side of Saturn's influence. So Saturn's influence begins to wane. We start to have less of the Saturn stuff working as perfectly as Saturn really wants it to, and then moving into a different kind of way of relating to things, or a different way of being with things. This is going to be good for people who are into the Sun/Uranus stuff. Uranus and Taurus has been beefing with Saturn this whole time. And that's part of the thing that we're going to see here is all of the planets are in relationship to Saturn, in relationship to power. Mars and Uranus and Taurus are like, fuck that shit. Venus and Gemini, on the other hand, wants to maybe rub elbows, be like, hey, look, I'm with it. I know how to work the rules to the game, and I know how to say all the right things and all this sort of stuff. planets in Capricorn with Pluto are going to be looking at some of the puppet strings and this kind of stuff. How are we each individually, as well as in our family units or in our greater units, going to engage with power? Now, I've already run out of time. Clearly, I have a lot to say about this whole thing. Please be sure to tune in here. Follow me on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming. I'm very excited for it. I know it hasn't looked like I've been very busy, but I've been super busy. It's good. We've got some stuff in the works. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to hit up my Venmo or my Cash App. Thank you so much. Check y'all later.